The purpose of this video is to give you a quick overview of the process by which we can publish content using Woodwing Inception for your HTML5 authoring, and also as a distribution point from which you can send content both to Adobe AEM mobile apps and also to websites, in this case a website hosted via the MODX content management system. I use the term overview because we're going to skip over some of the background that's required for this process to function effectively. One of those background elements is that Inception contain an existing template that's been developed specifically for your use, and that's something that you would need to rely on a developer for. But once it's in place, you can use it for any story you're publishing. Now you see we're logged into Inception here. We're logged in also to Adobe Experience Manager, and we're also logged into our website content management system. So the obvious starting point is with content itself. In this case, we're going to use a sample from an Adventist mission publication. And we've got a Microsoft Word document containing our text, and we've got a series of images that go along with the story. So first and foremost, we have to create an HTML version of this content that's formatted for use in our distribution channel. So we're going to start a new story in Inception. And we're going to give it a proper title, and we're going to select the template that I've just described that's been developed specifically for this purpose, set a due date if necessary. You can even assign the story to a specific individual if necessary, and we're going to click on Create. So here you get a blank template. This has all the components of a typical story, but obviously nothing's filled in yet. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our header image. Simply drag it into the pre-existing template that we've defined. It shows up there just like we want it to. And we're going to get our title. Now in this case you could either copy and paste this from the Word document or just type it in yourself. Now elements that are left blank, in this case we don't have a subtitle in this story, elements that are left blank won't show up in the final HTML. They'll be there, but because they don't really consume any space, they won't be noticeable. They're not an issue. So you can just leave that just exactly as it is. So next thing we need to do is grab all of our content, the body copy for this story. So I'm going to copy that into my clipboard, and I'm going to come back over here to body copy and simply paste it. You'll see it comes in here, and you may get some odd spacing depending on what's present in your Microsoft Word document. But most of the formatting should come through as defined in the Word document. Now here I'm going to select this as a drop cat. Now you notice within Inception, each of these elements, as I roll over them, you see there's a little icon that appears here, and you also notice that when I click on any of these, I've got options present over here. For instance, if I click up here, you'll see this is the hero element, and it's got specific options, whereas if I click in here, this is a body element, and it has specific options. Now those are important to some degree, but most of these are going to be predefined to a very specific list by your developer, and then they would give you specific instructions as to which elements to use and what options to select for each element. In this case, this template requires a country be defined, and we've got a map image. We're just going to simply drag and drop right into there, and we know that this country is South, if I could spell, South Africa. And you can see the formatting's all preset. You'll notice that this is a fully responsive template. So obviously that's part of the style sheet that's built into the template itself, but you can preview this content that you're developing at any size you need to. So already we've got a story in place. Now obviously we're missing some elements here. We need a byline photo, which we'll click and drag into place here. And we need an author name, which we grab again either by copying and pasting from the Word document, which I'm going to do this time, or simply typing in yourself. I'm going to grab her byline here and put that in. So now we've got our author element. So already pretty much a complete story. Now in this case we want a photo gallery as well. So how Inception works is each element on a page is basically its own box. And as such you insert things before or after any box inside the page or inside the content. In this case I want to put in a photo gallery, and I want to put it in about here. So I'm going to just go ahead and click plus right here, and you'll see it pops up. We've got a number of title elements, we've got a number of text elements that we can select, a number of media elements, and a number of layout elements. Now these are all predefined within Inception. You don't have any control over any of the elements provided here or any of the options provided here. That is all Inception created content. You can't do anything about it except simply use it. And there's no access whatsoever to the HTML markup this creates until you've actually exported this story to its final destination. Now that said, most of what you need you'll find here. In this case, we're going to create a photo gallery as an example. We go into the media category, click on slideshow, get a nice big box here with a drag and drop receptacle. So we're going to go ahead and grab our images from the story and drag and drop them into that receptacle, and you'll see they get formatted as needed. And in this case, we've got caption copy. They Greek in some caption copy to show you where it's going to be. And you can simply click in here and either type your caption, or you could go back to your copy file if your captions are present there, navigate in between the images, and simply paste it in. Now you notice also when I go back to my gallery, your photos are listed here, and you can actually just drag and drop here to relocate if you need to reorient or reorganize your photo gallery. Another option you might want is a pull quote. So I'll go ahead and just, for example, here we'll create a container element. Now the container element is very special within Inception, and that is because it's an element into which you can embed other content. It's the only element into which you can embed other content. So we've created a container, and I've got a couple styles here. We're going to select this as default. We're going to select this as aligned right. You'll see automatically it's locating it to the right of the copy. And I'm going to come back here and I'm going to grab a pull quote. So back to our container, I can add to my container a text element, a quote element, and paste in my quote. Now, because of the way this is formatted as a container aligned right, again, if I said middle, you see that formatting's lost. If I align it right, you'll see it flows with the rest of the content according to the style sheet. Now, let's say I had a larger block of copy I wanted to add. Maybe put something in here at the very end. We'll put in a nice big block of text. Again, we'll go to our layout element, we'll go to our container, and maybe we'll slide back over to our text file and grab a larger block of text. In this case, we've got a sort of a subtext about global mission. And again, we're going to add to container. This time we're going to use text and body and paste this copy directly in here. And I see the formatting's not right, but if I come back to my options here, I've got an additional format that I've already predefined that will put that content within a box, and you'll see it also reformats responsibly with the rest of your content. Now, these options, Woodwing limits you to 4 options. These can be named by your developer to specific names that you would more easily recognize within your template. But they are limited. You only get 4 options and 3 sub-options for each based on alignment. It can be somewhat confining, but with some clever development, you can cover most of the options that you need using those 4 options and our 3 sub-options for alignment. So here we see we've already got our content. Now, one quick thing I want to point out here that's really important, and one of the primary reasons I think Inception is a good tool for non-coders, and that's the location of content. Oftentimes you'll have put something in and realize, you know what, I don't really want this here. Well, I could simply just delete it, or I could click on it and relocate it, which is even more convenient. And the same thing can be done with most. Now, if I tried that with a photo gallery, it'd actually relocate individual images within the photo gallery, so that doesn't work so well. But with actual block content or with containers, it's not a big deal at all to click on this and drag it to a different location within the text. And the same could be for each individual paragraph, actually, since they are essentially blocks as well. So here we have a fully completed story formatted via the template that was already created by a developer, and this story is ready for publication. So now we get into the fun part of distributing this to multiple locations. So within Inception, there is something called a metadata field, and the metadata, or I should say metadata fields. The metadata is content that's sent along with the story to your endpoint, but it's not really part of the story itself. In this case, we're using a lot of metadata fields to define specific elements about this or specific bits of information about the story for use on the website. So right away I know I want a label here, and the reason I'm doing the label actually isn't for the website, it's for organizational purposes, which I'll show you here shortly. If I put that label in, when I go back to my story list, you'll see labels are included here. And I'm using a volume and number and page for the sake of clarity. And if I wanted to later on, I've got a long list of stories here. I want to find a specific story. It's no big deal for me to say, okay, I want volume 4, number 1, page 10. And I get right to the story I'm looking for. So the labels are just for organizational purposes. Let's go back to our metadata field here. Now what might be really useful for us in this case, I really need to set a publication date. I know that this was published in August of last year, so I'm going to say this was an August issue. And I know that section number in this case is going to be my page number, which is page number 21. And my issue ID is volume 3, number 2. Actually, I'm sorry, number 3. Now, these are only important based on the endpoint you're publishing to. The endpoint I'm going to publish this story to requires this information. Your development platform or your development environment may require different metadata fields be completed in a very specific way, but regardless, this is a great way to get data from inception to your website to help you publish your content in an efficient way. So in our case, this gets used to define a folder where all the photos are placed. This gets used in combination with this to define an alias, which becomes the URL for this story. So all our metadata that is required for this particular endpoint is in place, and we are ready to publish. So to publish, I'm going to simply go here to our Publish option and click on Publish. Now, within here I've got 2 targets. I've got Adobe AEM, and I've got Adventist Mission website. So let's, for first example, let's go to Adobe AEM. So this is going to publish this story directly to your Adobe Experience Manager mobile interface. So I'll click on AEM, and I'm going to the Mission 360 project, and I'm going to click Publish. And just like that, it will process your story and send it to Adobe Experience Manager. Now, if I come here to my content and layout, you'll see here's the story, and it's in the middle of processing right now. And it comes up with a little exclamation point because it's missing the image that it needs. So I can simply click here, and again, as an overview, I'm not going to go into the details of how AEM is configured to handle the formatting of your content from category to collection, etc. That's something you need to work with the developer to set up originally. And once that's done, then handling your content's fairly simple. So I'm just going to deal with handling the content itself. In this case, we've just sent an article from Inception to Adobe AEM, and we're going to finish the process within Adobe AEM. So I'll select that story, click on my content properties. You'll see it's brought in some of the content that we need. I may, in this case, want to just select a sentence or two to use as a teaser. I'm just going to put that in here as my abstract, and some of this other information you may or may not need. In this case, one thing that's mandatory within Adobe AEM is an image to represent the story. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Upload. I'm going to go back to the story or the folder that I'm using for this particular demo, and I'm going to select one of the photos there. In this case, I'll just go ahead and grab this header image. And then I will click Done. When I go back to my content, you'll see this is already here. Now, if I want to go ahead and push this directly out to my app, it's a simple thing to do. I can simply click on the story and click Publish. And the story will publish and become part of the app that you already have distributed. Now, depending on how your app is configured, it may be necessary to take one more step to get this article included in the app. In this case, our app groups content together by issue using Adobe AEM collections. So the last step here is I need to include this article in a live collection that's already part of the app. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and group this in with November. I simply need to add it, select that article, click Add, and it now is going to be part of this collection or this issue within the app. You'll see this is published out of date, meaning simply that I've made changes that aren't reflected in the live version of the app right now. All I need to do to rectify that is click the Publish option and allow AEM to push this new content out to the app. And if you have push notifications enabled, your users should get a note to let them know a change has been made to the app. Now, to see how that works, let's take a quick look at a live version of this app. And you see we get a note right away that says Update Available, and all I need to do is tap that update, You'll see here's the story we've just created. Pops up directly in your app, and I can tap on that and it'll load that story up. And here is the story you just created. You see it looks exactly like it did within Inception and is responsive, and this would work on any device. Right now we're looking at this within an iPad, and you see here I've got a photo gallery that slides exactly how you'd want it to. So that's fully responsive HTML5 content within an AEM app. So what about your website? Let's go back to Inception, and let's go back to our publish option here, and instead of sending this to AEM, we're going to send this to our website. Now this is going to send all the same resources it sent to AEM to a specific endpoint on your web server that you've already defined and that your developer has created for you that will process all the files and resources that Inception sends. So go ahead and click on Publish. It will process and it will send all of its resources and content to that endpoint. And then we're going to go to our content management system. We'll refresh the site tree since we've just added content. And I'm going to go to the location where I know this story should appear if it's processed correctly. And let's see if it worked. Sure enough, here's our story, 6 feet. Now if I click here, you'll see it's brought over my title, it's brought over the template, or I should say it's assigned the proper template, it's brought over the content from our metadata field to create the alias that I wanted, and it's brought in all the source code. It's also actually populated my image variable for me. So this story is completely finished. I can just click on View, and there it is. That's the website version of the same story you just created within Inception. You'll see this is fully responsive, just like it needs to be, and contains all the elements of your website. You'll see this is the menu from the website. We've got our forward and backward links that are part of our website template, but the content of the story itself is all exactly what you created within Inception. Now, where you need to make changes to this document, you can actually go back to Inception, make the changes, and republish it, and those changes would come through live on your website and to the AEM app. So that's the basic process. We've taken our set of content, our Microsoft Word document, our images, and in Inception, we've used a predefined template that a developer built using a style sheet and a set of elements that are predefined and formatted. We've built fully responsive HTML that we have published both to an Adobe AEM app and to a MODX-based website. Now obviously there are a number of details I passed over rather quickly here, but really as long as the foundation is built correctly and your template is built well and your endpoint is developed well, after all that's in place, the process of actually publishing articles is pretty much as simple as what I've just demonstrated. Hopefully that gives you an adequate overview of the process. I'll be happy to fill in any details you need. Just let me know.